Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market. This is our daily show from Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. GMT, every day of the week, where we discuss all things to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make some, a lot, or no money online, depending whether you are lucky or not. Today, we're going to get into everything from the crypto market and the NFT market in just a little bit. I'm your host, Bchek. I'm joined by my legendary co-host, Legendary, and Sammy. But before we do that, just as always, a quick reminder that nothing that we say here is financial advice, because the market is exceptionally risky. We don't know anything for sure, so please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, it is Tuesday. It is the 23rd of April. How are you doing? How are you feeling today?
GM, doing quite well. Still very excited for the week. Still waiting for that Blast Gold stimmy to be distributed and see what this week is going to look like for me in terms of my additional Blast Gold. Also, I do have a side quest for this show. So for those who don't know, in terms of how our setup works, we're streaming via StreamYard. This is basically where we have a private chat between the three of us. We can also see the YouTube comments, everything. And in this private chat, my goal for today is to type something funny to make Sammy laugh on camera and see if I can accomplish that.
Why is this a joke that I'm not in on? Why are we making Sammy laugh today? What's going on here?
I don't know. I was like, I need a couple of side quests sometimes, and I thought this was a fun one. I kind of managed to do that yesterday, and now I want to do it like on purpose with full intention.
Okay, so I haven't missed anything. I'm just concerned now that I've missed one of the jokes. I haven't missed anything. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, up to now.
Okay. Okay. I haven't missed anything. There's going to be some more jokes in the private chat. It's probably going to be some jokes in the YouTube chat too, based on some of the OnlyFans chatter yesterday. Sammy, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How are you responding to this more boisterous YouTube section, the private chat section? What's going on here?
Well, I think I've been rumbled. I think Oxy can see me in Cambria whilst on the show, so I think he's dobbing me into the YouTube channel. But yeah, it's farming hard. But I'll try and get you back, Legendary. We'll see who can laugh first.
Okay, so this is the level of commitment to the Blast Gold farming. You think we're here present with you running a show, and actually we're all just farming gold at the same time. That's the level of commitment, guys.
I do have a confession to make.
If
Sammy has shared, I do have a confession to make as well. I have played YOLO during the show. Not today, not yesterday, but it has happened in the past.
I have a confession to make as well. I have played Decentral Games Roulette while the show has been happening as well.
Are we all just gambling addicts? do we need to make this into like an
gambling addicts running a show? I love it.
But the thing is, in my defense, and we're going to get into all the headlines and everything in just a moment. So do not worry to the extent that you are worried about our addictions. To participate on Decentral Games, it's just a little click of the button. It's just like, it's over there, bet on red, and the wheel's spinning, and then it makes a little, very, very small sound. And then that means I'm fully attentive over here. But when that little sound goes, I just press the button again. Repeat bet. That's how I've done it in the past.
Wasn't there a guy in the YouTube comments asking about a ping sound whilst streaming?
Yeah, there was. Although we diagnosed that, and that definitely wasn't my fault, I think. But no, that is definitely true. We have had people commenting, and everyone very conveniently denies that it's them creating like any background Discord pings, or probably YOLO Games pings, or Cambria pings. So look, a lot of plausible deniability here. But let's get into the show. That's what you're really here for. But some small alpha before we get started on how much we're actually playing this stuff. As always, the headlines and prices come from the snapshot, which is pinned up top. If you do find it brings you some value today, please do consider pressing the like button. on it, and maybe even the retweet button if you feel that way inclined. Let's get into it, starting with the price action. We have crypto is fairly flat today. That's pretty calm. We got crypto at 66.1k for Bitcoin. We got ETH just under 3.2k, Solana at $154. Headlines today: Magic Eden launches Runes marketplace to make it easier to trade runes on Bitcoin. They said this: today we're introducing Runes, a customizable buying experience allowing you to control lot sizes and price selection. You can filter by price and size, find the right one for you, and buy. Simple as that. We also have swaps coming soon. Literally just put the amount of Bitcoin you want to spend and we'll find the best option in a single click. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Also talk about some Magic Eden dominance, I think, in just a little bit too. Number two, dog tweet. This is the dog ticker tweet retweeted by Leonidas, suggesting an $84,000 airdrop for runestone holders, which was broadly criticized from the timeline, at least from what I could see yesterday. We had a bit of a discussion on it on our show with Thread Guy in the evening. Definitely want to hear people's thoughts on this. We had various people chiming in. And finally, final headline, DeGods jump 20% to a 1.6 ETH floor, bringing ETH NFTs back to life on the suggestion that they're going to bridge back to Solana. So that is pretty entertaining. Want to go around the discussion, kind of see what we feel about that too, as well as get into everything else. Some floor prices from around the space. We've got CryptoPunks at 38.1 ETH, Bored Apes at 12.8, up 4%, Mutants at 2.3, DeGods at 1.6, Captains at 3.4, Azuki's at 4, Penguins at 10.9, up 6%, Mad Lads down 10% again at 98, Solana underneath 100 Sol. I don't know what the catalyst there is, but definitely feels a bit low. And the Nouns winning bid was at 9.3 ETH. Legendary, that is the price action. Those are the headlines. Anything catching your attention before we hit the main stuff?
Yeah, as you said, DeGods being up, Utes following that path, also being up a bit more than 20%. And I think apart from that, one thing that I noticed was the QBX keys. They were down more than 20% overnight. QBX being that loyalty program NFT. They will have the TGE soon. The QBX founders key have a token allocation that is tied to them. So the question is if basically now a snapshot has been taken and this is a dump that's going on past this snapshot, or if I missed anything else on the news side of things when it comes to QBX.
Okay, so there's a potentially big, so we're looking at this on the Mintify heat map, our NFT marketplace partners said, yeah, down 20%. My Pet Hooligan also down 35%. I believe they had a successful token launch in the past 24 hours with a Coinbase listing. That's just from memory, from reading the timeline. Anyone got any information there? Do we know about that?
Haven't followed their token launch. Sammy, did you?
So I saw they made an announcement around backers. So they had quite a few significant backers, including Paris Hilton and a few other people that I hadn't heard in a while. So I was kind of thinking maybe we're coming back into that phase where we have celebrities posted on their rounds. But outside of that, I was a bit whether the actual price was actually factored into that. So maybe it was a sell the news event. I'm not sure why it's down so much, but that's what I would hazard a guess as.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that kind of aggressive price action probably suggests like snapshot being taken. That would be my guess too. Talking about celebrity backers, I want to check this while we take the conversation in another direction, but I'm almost certain in the Monad round, there was like a basketball player. Am I just making that up? Do any of you remember? I want to check this in a second. Do any of you remember? No?
Well, Thread Guy plays basketball.
Yeah, but he wasn't on the main, one of the main lead investors on the main document though. Okay, I want to check that. I'm kind of intrigued because I do think, I don't know, it's kind of interesting to see when those celebs kind of get involved on the investment side. Okay, so we had a look at a little bit of the price action here. As we mentioned, DeGods up like 16%, Utes up 22% as well. We're going to come to that discussion in a little bit. But the first discussion for the day, I picked out this tweet, which I thought was interesting, not because of anything like specifically happening immediately, but just as an idea and just to reflect a little bit on where we are and how far we've come from the FTX debacle of 2021. And it was this tweet by Zach Voel. I don't know who that is, but I just thought it was interesting. He said, "What you don't understand is everything up to this point has been recovery from FTX and repricing from initial ETF news. The bull market has barely started. The music isn't even being played. The orchestra just finished tuning. Now it's go time." I want to hear Legendary's thoughts, Sammy's thoughts. We'd love to bring NFT stats into this conversation as well in just a little bit. I guess the key question for you guys, or the key thing that I was wondering about, thinking about, is I think everyone's kind of accepted already that, like, you know, the bull market is back, and we've been saying this for months already. That's not been a problem. We've been going up only for a while. But to what extent is it pure recovery? Because FTX obviously made us sell off far more aggressively than maybe in a traditional bear market. I don't know 100%. I guess I just wanted to hear your thoughts. To what extent is it actually a bull market, or is it just recovery, getting ready for the bull market? Are those things indistinguishable from each other, and should we not even bother thinking about that? Legendary, will go to you first. Sammy, NFT Stats, and Stoop has their hand raised too. Want to hear some thoughts on this? Legendary first.
Yeah, I do have a bit of a strong take on that. I feel like it's a
Cool.
conversation that we've been having a couple of times on the show, and even back in January, people were saying, "No, the real bull hasn't started yet. That's not the bull. That's not the bull." And I find that honestly a bit delusional. If you look at the stock market, which is the way bigger market than crypto, and if that is at all-time high, and we are going up, and we've been going up even back then for a couple months straight, to not call that a bull market, and to like find or try to find another word and call the recovery from FTX, as you also suggested, maybe that like difference in wording doesn't even matter. But to the people who've been like constantly saying, "No, this is not a bull market, you haven't seen anything yet," I completely disagree with that perspective. Again, also looking at the stock market price action, and looking at how we've been going up, and we have hit a new BTC all-time high. I know it's not like much higher than the old one, but in my world, you can't hit all-time high in stock market, you can't hit all-time high on Bitcoin and say that's not a bull market.
Yeah, interesting take. I think I agree with you. It seems like some people are, or this person is kind of compartmentalizing it, being like bull market equals price above all-time high, and like that equals bull market, and anything under that doesn't justify that kind of phraseology, although arguably it doesn't really matter. One interesting observation I have heard since, I don't know, just chatting to people over here, and we'll go to Sammy in a second, is I've heard people, particularly with NFTs, I've heard a lot of people say things like, and when we're in the bull market, we're gonna see this like rotation to NFTs, and they keep saying like, and when we're in a bull market, and I'm like, which bull market? When? Like, which bull market are you talking about? Like, we're in it, we're up on everything, and I appreciate that people want to try to communicate this nuance, which is, okay, well, towards the end of a bull market, NFTs should or could potentially move, and that might be the rotation towards the end once people have made all of their money. But I just thought it was interesting to see people communicate the way they spoke about it, and just to hear their perspective, which was, when the bull market comes, then my bags are going to sell. And it might not be just yet, but that's because we're not in the bull market as things stand. Sammy, what do you think about that particular point on like NFTs being a late stage bull market type of thing? Are we there already? And do you think this is a bigger question? Do you think it's even necessarily going to repeat in the same way? We've only had one NFT bull market once before. Are people going to do the same thing when everyone got so wrecked last time? Wouldn't be wise from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, I mean, the easy answer is I think we are in a bull market. I completely agree with what Legendary was saying. I do think the composition of assets and participants this cycle is completely different to last cycle. So you've obviously got a lot more institutional investment with the ETFs. I think it's going to be institutional driven. So, I mean, I speak to a lot of friends outside of crypto, and I say, well, why aren't you interested? You've seen it on the news. And they're like, well, it hasn't gone past, or it's gone past the all-time high. I'm not going to buy the top again. So that there is that suggestion that they are a little bit wiser. They know what crypto is. They've heard about it, but they also know it's risky. They've been burned a little bit more, so they need that additional FOMO where it goes absolutely parabolic for them to come back in. But I don't think there's going to be like a huge blow off top again. I think the sheer amount of capital that is going to be attributed to institutional investments probably going to be a lot higher than the retail element. So I think that would probably smooth the pumps and buy the dips a little bit more. So I think it might be a little bit more gradual. But I saw Standard Chartered double down on their prediction that it's going to be 150K by this year, 250K by next year. And that was a revision up from 120K Bitcoin. So I think the institutions are kind of suggesting that actually, yeah, we're still on track for that. And we think there's going to be a bit of an uptick later this year. But I think to say that we're not in a bull market, I think we're definitely in the foothills.
Yeah, interesting. I love that you always know what the institutions are saying in terms of the numbers. Like you'll always have the Standard Chartered prediction and whatever. Like one of my instinctive reactions is that, are they the best people placed to do the stuff? Like, do they even own any? Like, that's one.
I mean, they've been owning it for years. I think Franklin Templeton's been running their own ETH node since like 2017 or something. They just don't really talk about it. I think a lot of the institutions that I used to deal with back in sort of 2019, 2020, they were asset managers in Australia, and they were buying up crypto assets. And as EY, we were being like, no, we can't touch this. Like it's too risky.
Okay.
But people like institutions were getting involved. I think that there's some very smart people at these places that are trying to work out what these assets are for, like how to account for them. Yes, there's a lot more complexity around like the bureaucracy of treating them from like accounting purposes and stuff. But even that's changing. Like a couple of years ago, it would be recorded as digital assets. Now you're kind of pushing for the mark to market. So it's like that transition just takes time. But I think they've been dabbling for years.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, I think that's very fair enough. Wanted to bring NFT stats into the conversation. Got Funky with his hand raised too. Then we'll come to Stoop as well. NFT stats, welcome to the stage, Sam. What are your thoughts here in terms of the bull market being, a predominant recovery at this point, and the main play to come?
I mean, I think we're in a bull market. It's always one of the quotes I always say is, we might be early to NFTs, but we're not early to the NFTs we own. And I think that's the problem. It's like people want their assets to be going up, but at the end of the day, like this is we're in the attention and FOMO game. And even though the space is doing incredibly well, the stuff you own might not be doing very well, and it may never do well again. I mean, already in ordinals, it's only been around for 1 year or so, and ordinal punks were like the object of all FOMO in the first month. And like that's, maybe they're still doing well, but like they're not on the timeline very much. Then 3 months later, Bitcoin frogs were like the ordinal you had to own to be OG. Now those aren't relevant anymore. Like we're already at like the third cycle of relevance for for what matters within the space. So like the space continues to do well, but the stuff you own like might not be doing well, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast. Like ETH NFTs, I don't know. I think it's kind of funny. Like the whole feed is full of people being like, you don't understand how it works. First, it's like the majors, then it's the alts, then it's NFTs. And basically they're just saying that the one thing that happened during COVID is exactly what's going to happen forevermore. And, I think, as you said, like one instance does not a trend or a rule make, I mean, maybe we'll see if that happens, but broadly speaking, like it's still not clear to me that NFT projects get like 2 or 3 chances. Like I almost think like if you look at most of these charts, these look like single mountains as opposed to mountain ranges, because being relevant in the attention game and in the coolness game and in the branding game, like it's just like hard to pick up when you've been beaten down. We're playing the FOMO game. It's like, once something has been beaten down, it's hard to like build that up again. Like there are examples of it happening. I think Pudgies and, CryptoPunks have had a couple little wins, but like, I don't know. That's a bunch of rambling.
Yeah,
I don't know if I even answered your question back at home, so I'm kind of going in and out again. I appreciate you for re-asking the question, because I might not have been fully present.
It's all good. I think one of the key observations there, or one of the key things that echoed with kind of what I was saying, is this idea that everyone seems so certain. Everyone seems so certain that we rotate back to NFTs towards the end of the cycle. Look, maybe we do, but I guess one of the things I wanted to flag as part of my thinking on all of the on the whole market in general is that it's only happened one time, from what I can tell. Like, it's only happened one time, and that was the first time, and we were all way more happy to speculate in a wild way the first time round because it was the first time and we didn't know how high it could go. And if anything now, and this is just one way of thinking about it, is the way I'm thinking about it. If anything now, after seeing it be such like a diabolical like top and such a rapid decline, I'd be more cautious the higher we go. Sam, I think you're off mute. You want to come in and then Legendary.
I was just saying NFTs are big. Like, to me, NFTs are like JPEGs that people feel connection with. That's what NFTs are to me. Like, people feel connection with, they love a trait, they want to own it, they feel it represents them well. Like, that's what node monkeys are, that's what Bitcoin puppets are, that's what all this stuff is. And I don't care how it is etched on a certain chain. Like, the underlying mechanism of what makes people feel connection to it and want to buy it, and makes it stand out versus the thousands of other things that are etched on the exact same chain is no different. So, like, JPEGs are hot right now. It's just not the JPEGs that we have historically owned. It's a new project. And as Gordon Garner said in that quote, it's like something becomes cool, eventually it becomes too big, and and the counterculture wants to take it down, and then it becomes uncool, and then you repeat with something new, and that's exactly what's happening right now, just like has always happened. Like, this is just no different.
Very, very strong point there. Thanks very much for that, Sam. We're just going to cut to Legendary quickly. I know you want to come in on something, then we'll go to Stoop and then Funky. Legendary first.
Yeah, absolutely agree with the take, and that's like always been the case in society. If you think about that, I don't know, I grew up as a kid, I loved collecting Pokemon cards. I wasn't wondering what the generation before me did, what my parents were into, and was like, oh, I'm gonna play with their toys and their collectibles. Like, each generation, each class cohort has their own things. And if anything, I do feel that this cycle is a bit different than the last two. Again, we have so little data. Like, I feel pretty confident to say stock market does 7 to 9% on average per year because it's been doing so for decades. But as you said, we had one NFT run, and like having the structure laid out and saying it's going to be the same again, but it's because it's been like that one time. I don't think that this is a smart thing to do. And if anything, the point I wanted to make is that this cycle feels so different because the last two cycles, I feel like we had like more singular mono topical narratives. You had DeFi summer, you had BNB meme season. And now suddenly in this cycle, you have so many things going on at the same time. You have the layer 2 mania with Base, with Blast. You have people being absolutely bullish on ordinals, on runes. You have people at the same time chasing gaming projects, chasing AI, chasing DePIN. You have projects who try to combine 2 or 3 of those narratives to be the first AI game built on, I don't know, on Blast or Base or using Bitcoin tech. So if anything, I feel like this cycle is way more convoluted, and we're like very happy to throw away an old narrative and be like, no, gaming was last week, this week is runes, and next week it's going to be something else. So I do feel like that this cycle has many more things going on at the same time. We don't follow like a linear direction as we did in the last two cycles.
Yeah, interesting point. It's hard to map perfectly. Just a couple of shout outs to the people on YouTube. Got that guy saying it's interesting to observe most of the people who came after 2020 think the bull market has barely started. Bottom for 99% of the project was 2022. Most just faded when it was happening. Maybe it depends on where you join potentially as one interesting perspective. JPEG's twin says, if this is all a game of attention and it's in a lot of people's interest for ETH NFTs to catch a bid again, wouldn't that make it more likely to happen? I don't know. I actually take the opposite take there. That's where I'm leaning towards at the moment in my thinking, where people saw people get so outrageously wrecked there, which means that people would be more cautious to potentially go back to that same thing or behave in the same way that caused that rapid kind of price up and price down. So that's one way of thinking about it. It's what I'm thinking about at the moment. Not necessarily correct, just how I'm thinking about it. Shout out to the people in YouTube comments, on fire at the moment. Stoop, we said we were going to come to you. Welcome to the stage, my friend, back again, day after yesterday. What are your thoughts here on where we are in the market, and to what extent we have this kind of rotation to NFTs coming? I cannot hear you very well. Legendary, can anyone else hear Stoop?
Nope, he's cutting off from you as well.
Okay, Stoop, you seem to be cutting out. I don't know if you want to try to drop down or check your connection, and we'll try to get you back up in a second. Let's go to Funky in the meantime. Funky, welcome to the stage, my friend. What are your thoughts here?
I mean, a lot of the ground's already been covered. I think that's complete cope for what that person said about not being in a bull market. The things that you guys already brought up about we have one data point. I mean, I completely concur with everything you just said. I am also of the mind, I was talking about this with my colleague, and he's a former TradFi guy like Sammy, Goldman Sachs and stuff. I don't even think we're going to see the same kind of bull we've seen in the past. If so much of the demand is being generated on the institutional side, the preponderance of liquidity is coming from them. I think we're going to see the majors really run, right? You're going to see Bitcoin continue to climb. Once ETH ETF happens, it's going to people are going to be piling in. I don't know if we're even going to see the same kind of alt season that we're used to seeing. Like, I think Sam brought up the point, everything is still this waterfall effect, and it's going to cascade and eventually get to NFTs. Institutions do not care about anybody's NFTs, right? So, I mean, I just think it's going to be a very different bull run. We're already in it. And, you guys already covered a lot of great ground. So
interesting stuff. I mean, I would be perfectly happy to just be going up slowly to the right forever. I don't mind that at all. So that's completely okay with me. Stoop, let's check in with you again, see if your connection is working now. A final thought on this topic before we move on.
Test 1 2 1 2. How do I sound?
Yep, we've got you.
Perfect. Yeah, so I'll say this is my fourth halving. 4 a.m. is a little bit early for me. That's why I'm now starting to be more present here, because this is really my only option. And I think I'm going to just start my day here. I think realistically, one of the issues that I've recognized is that I think far too many of us spend far too much time listening to each other versus listening to people that are not in this room. And so I've started to be more active on other platforms, and here I'm just kind of listening to see what everyone is kind of having conversations about. Do I necessarily agree with those opinions? No. I think the thing that I would point out, having been here for a long time, is one that the ICO Ethereum cycle of 2017, I think was like a technology cycle. Really, we started to understand and play with these tools. I believe 2020 to 2021, or whatever you guys want to call that cycle, was a cultural cycle. That was really when market participants started really paying attention, who just got out of a bear market. Everyone is learning what it's like to push buttons, but we're not builders. And I think we've lost the reason why we're here as a rejection of the old financial system, but now we're pandering to institutions. And I believe that this next bull cycle, and I'm actually kind of in agreement if everyone else is in agreement, that I don't know that this cycle ever ends. I think it is a slow, steady up and to the right, similar to if you look at the 100-year stock market, right? It just goes up and to the right. Yeah, sure, year by year, maybe it has some ups and downs. But I think over the next 5 years, we'll just be yeah, I don't really remember a bear market, as long as we educate and onboard people correctly. This is really, I believe, a user experience cycle. I believe contextualizing this technology, because as you guys have said, we can't all pay attention to everything, right? So lean into what you're interested in, but don't assume that just because you're gambling or you want to use Blast, that's what even 70% of the market is going to use going forward, because who wants to handhold? I remember the Thanksgiving where I told family about buying Bitcoin or Ethereum, and then having to go back 6 months later and answer. And it's do we really want to handhold? Are you really going to handhold ordinals holders on BTC, or is Bitcoin and Runes just Windows Phone? Maybe Solana is Android, and maybe Ethereum is Apple. And we're going to find how the market just uses the majors and then continue to watch like these alts rotate, like Chainlink and some of these other things, right? It's just we're focusing on the trees. Like, who cares about NFTs? Who cares if it's a bull market or a bear market? If you're good at what you do, if you know how to trade, if you know how to read a chart, you can market make, right? You can flip, you can still make money. It's just more difficult than a bear. A bull market makes it easier, but it's like almost irrelevant in the conversation because we're talking about tech. Like, what's the easiest? What's the fastest? What's the most efficient? And I think we've gotten like lost in the sauce because we spent so much time in a bear market that now we're starting to come out of it, and we're like kind of having different conversations across the board. And that's like what I think run into. And now I'm like, this cabal inside outside joke that everyone has is like really just like factions within this group, but no one's actually like working together. No one has aligned interests, and it's interesting that we've all made it a joke, but it's kind of sinister as a joke too.
Really interesting stuff. I mean, I want to link the kind of technology discussion with the runes discussion we're about to have in just a little bit. And we've got Brad with us as well, who was on stage with me on the Thread Guy Spaces yesterday. Definitely want to bring him into that conversation in a second. To your point about, just kind of going up and to the right and maybe the volatility disappearing over time. And yes, there's some volatility, but maybe not returning to a time where of the wild volatility prior. We've definitely been having those conversations on this show and kind of speculating that might be have a reasonable probability of happening at some point in time in the near future. But I think we've discussed that point kind of a reasonable amount to this stage. Let's keep it moving with the headlines today and get into the runes. Kind of technology upgrade from Magic Eden, because I think that's kind of the direction we were going in. Magic Eden has said that the garden is turning orange. You can now buy, list, and view runes on Magic Eden with our new beta program. Today, we're introducing Runes Table View, a customizable buying experience, allowing you to control lot sizes and price selection, filter by price and size, find the right one for you and buy. Simple as that. We also have swaps coming soon. Literally just put the amount of Bitcoin you want to spend and we'll find the best option in a single click. Obviously, one of the reasons this is happening, for people's context, is as things stand, purchasing, ordinals, the purchasing experience has become much better. Predominantly, that market share is taken by Magic Eden, who've done a good job creating the marketplace. But the runes kind of buying and selling experience has been far more difficult up to this point. People hope that this will make it easier and better for the end user, but we will see how that happens. And the bigger question is, will that ease of use translate into more people being willing to participate on it? Legendary or Sammy, I'm going to come to you in a second. I actually want to go straight to Brad first, who was with us on the show yesterday. I think you're probably quite aligned with me, Brad, on this. So I'd actually be welcome to hearing opposing perspectives on this as well. But Brad, welcome to the show, my friend. What are your thoughts on the Magic Eden upgrade for the runes trading experience and where runes are going to go from here?
Yeah, hey, Mitra. So we talked about it yesterday on Third Guy Space. For me, honestly, it's a user experience thing, and it's going to spike. It did spike. I don't know, some people are already starting to post pictures of down 40, 50%, whatever. I don't know what the overall trend is and where some of the higher performing runes are, but I think it's just going to follow the exact same trajectory as ordinals did, right? And that's lots of excitement, lots of enthusiasm. Everyone gets involved. Everyone realizes the experience is dog shit. It's a little faster to iterate here, but it's filled with friction. Some people are going to stick around. Other people are going to forget. It's going to go into a lull for a little bit. And then once people have the time to build that infrastructure, that stuff that brings convenience and frankly, distribution, right? That's what you want. You want to have distribution to as many people as possible. So you're exposed to as much capital as possible, have ability for them to inject that into your ecosystem. And once that stuff is laid down, those man hours are put in place, then, something will happen. Some unique event will happen that will bring it back. People will realize the tools are back in place, and it'll go probably a little bit higher. Some of the things, who knows which ones actually do go up, but we'll continue to have this ebb and flow of everyone's excited. They're too excited, frankly. It bores them, and or if the experience sucks, people stick around and build. Then the people leave, once that stuff that's built comes to place or has the ability to show itself, people come back, go, hey, this isn't so bad. They inject more money. It goes a little bit higher. And we do that until we're in a downtrending market. Who knows when that'll be, 9 months, 12 months, but that's the general flow I'm looking for.
Okay. Really interesting. Thank you for that. I've got one follow-up question for you, Brad. And we've got Kusho up on stage as well. I'd actually like Kusho to maybe speak to the opposing side here, potentially as someone who I know has been a bit more bullish on Bitcoin and ordinals. I guess my first question to you, Brad, or the first follow-up question is, this is the confusion I have as things stand. And it's a question at this point. I'm coming to a conclusion, but I'm still open to be persuaded otherwise. It seems to be the case everyone wanted to say Ethereum was very bad for trading meme coins because the UX is so bad and it was too costly. So it was like, okay, cool. Everyone's going to go over to Solana. I'm actually open to that. I love ETH. But it's like, okay, if the Solana UX wins for you, that makes sense. And it is very, very good when the stuff just operates so quickly. So I can accept that. What's the argument for Bitcoin, for trading meme coins on Bitcoin then? If the UX is so bad, if it is quite costly, does that supplant Solana? Like, is that the argument that anyone's trying to make? Are you similarly confused to me here? Am I missing something? What's your perspective here? Then want to hear from Kusho in a bit as well.
So two things there. One, I'm not confused on why that's the case, but I think the justification is horseshit, frankly, and it's frankly just because it's orange, right? That's the exact same like sales pitch that came with ordinals, right? It's like, oh, NFTs elsewhere suck, but they're orange over here, therefore they're better. And I had a little post the other day that like everyone is saying, or Udi specifically saying that ordinals was objectively better, and it just shows you the strength of narrative, right? Like you can agree or disagree with all of these things, but the narrative that it's on Bitcoin is extremely strong, at least in this ecosystem right now, whether you agree with that or disagree with that. I personally disagree with that, but I understand the appeal to a lot of people. I think a lot of it then comes from just wealth effects, right? Bitcoin is the first thing that's seen the ETF flows. It's got a lot of people that were over there that are making money, therefore they continue to swirl that around. Once that cycles back through everything else, I think, who was it? Funky mentioned ETF or Ethereum. That's going to happen at some point, and then those people are going to start flexing on everyone. You've seen micro pumps within that, but it's a combination of factors. But generally, it just shows you strength of narrative.
Okay, that's kind of my inclination as well. I want to hear Kusho's thoughts on that, whether it's for, whether it's against. It was just a genuine confusion on my part. I even heard people, I mean, on the one hand, people would complain that ETH is too expensive, but then I heard the same people say, isn't it so great that it's generating so many fees for the Bitcoin miners? I'm like, what? Like, as in, if the argument that something is generating fees is good, then that's cool. Just be consistent. And again, that's not me being pro ETH or pro Bitcoin or pro Solana. It's just, there seems to be gaps in the consistency of arguments, which I'm noticing, and I'm happy for someone to explain me otherwise. I just need to know the information. As I've said before, I'm not an expert on ordinals or on the Bitcoin side, but I'd love to hear. Kusho, you are bullish on ordinals. Maybe you're making a lot of money on ordinals too. Let's find out about that as well. What are your thoughts on this discussion? Would love to hear your perspective either way.
GM, I don't know if you guys can hear me. It's good to be back.
We got you.
So for me, it's like Brett said, it's fully a narrative conversation. Like, people are going to keep saying because it's on Bitcoin, it's better, it's bigger, it has access to much more liquidity as vis-a-vis, the dormant whales that haven't moved Bitcoin in years and all of that stuff. And I think it's not complete horseshit, it's kind of true, but it also presents the opportunity for people who didn't have that early exposure to crypto to say like, oh, this is my chance to like get involved with something that the OGs are really getting involved with. And that kind of like draws attention to it, especially because it's Bitcoin and everybody at the end of the day wants to start Bitcoin. And if trading rules is going to help you start Bitcoin in much larger quantities and much faster, then everybody wants to do it as soon as possible. But at the same time, it's like the user experience is actually hot shit. Like, no kidding. I mean, for me, being somebody that's been inside of it, that's been into crypto for a while, it's not really a big deal for me. Plus, I'm a Wizard of Oz, so I can use Room Blaster, which is like super fast, super easy. and that's like the easiest user experience for me when it comes to like minting or buying. No, mostly minting because you can't buy on Room Blaster. Minting runes is easiest on Room Blaster, but the general experience from my perspective has been tough because I feel like it's something where I got front run last night. I got front run last night on a mint, and it's like if you've never been into Bitcoin and you're coming here for the first time and you want to trade runes and you're getting front run on your first trade, and you've spent a good amount of Bitcoin on that particular mint, then it's going to hurt you very deeply. You know, it's going to hurt you a lot. And that's something that most people do not want to experience. So it's like objectively, the user experience is bad. Objectively, like it's actually bad because it's still early. One, it's still in development. There's still a lot of tinkering to be done. But the narrative is also there, so people want to move there in right now while it's hard. Because like we've seen this happen over and over again. When there's a lot of friction, that means there's a lot of opportunities to make a shit ton of money. And then it's much easier than waiting for the experience to get better and wait for everybody else to come on board at the same time. So I think that is the bull case for runs right now, which is it's still early, it's in development, and there's a high level of friction, meaning there's a high level of opportunity. That is the bull case.
Yeah,
that is the objective bull case.
I get
If it's like, oh, it's good for the ecosystem, that's horseshit because the fees are terrible.
Got it. Okay, that's good to hear. I think one of the most important things that Bread said yesterday, which stuck with me, and again, this is like me working out the stuff in real time, thinking about how these narratives are moving and how people are discussing it, is that people talk about where Bitcoin is like at the moment, and then they're going to need to make these improvements, but it's kind of assuming that everything else is going to stand still in the meantime. And it's like, okay, Bitcoin's going to make these improvements. What do you think ETH is going to be doing? What do you think Solana is going to be doing? Like, this is ultimately a competition. And yes, Bitcoin's going to need to make these improvements. But what is everyone else supposed to just like, they're not going to not improve at the same time, right? So the delta between Bitcoin and ETH and the man hours, which Brett always speaks about and is a very persuasive argument to me, like the man hours that's been put into ETH is higher than elsewhere. And yeah, sure, this stuff can get built out, but it's just going to take time. In the time that you've caught up to where they are now, who knows where ETH and Solana is going to be? Like, this is a man hours question. It's not even about like loyalty to a chain. I'll go wherever. I'll literally go wherever I think there's some opportunity. But look, I know there's some more takes to come here. Funky's got his hand raised. Stoop has his hand raised too, but we want to be able to touch on the other point we wanted to make on runes, as well as talk a little bit about DeGods bridging around. So I think we're going to have to move on for now. Hopefully you can come in on that conversation in just a little bit. I don't want to spend too much on this one because, again, we spoke about it a lot on the show with Thread Guy yesterday. A quick point on the kind of responsibility, Legendary, that project leaders have when communicating about projects. So we saw this tweet. I don't know how, don't think it necessarily went viral, but people were talking about it a lot. It was definitely came across our radar, where Trevor from Bitcoin, it's Pizza Ninjas, had tweeted out the dog coin from Leonidas is trading at 0.1 pre-market, making each airdrop worth over $84,000 in the pre-market. Haters in disbelief. When asked about it, he was actually on the show. Whilst after Thread Guy had kind of tweeted out, like, is this an irresponsible tweet? He came on the show and was asked about it. He was like, well, no, obviously I know that it's not going to be worth that. But a lot of people took that as kind of, well, if you know that it's not worth that, is that an irresponsible thing to do when you are in a position of kind of authority and responsibility potentially? Legendary, do you have a take on this before we kind of cycle out into the DeGods conversation?
Look, I get it. Being bullish on your own project, absolutely fine, absolutely okay with that. But there's like a line where it gets ridiculous, and I think this line has been crossed in this case, especially if you know that your audience looks at posts like that, and this is how we work in this space. We love to trade on rumors, speculations, and if then someone close to the project, a founder, someone from the inner team, whoever that might be, puts out a repost, a post like that, that's, in my opinion, a step too far.
Yeah, so that's kind of the way I was leaning as well. When asked about it, he didn't seem to think that there was anything wrong with it as such. More just like, yeah, it was a post. I don't think that that's an issue. Sammy, what do you think? Because one of the things we've mentioned is we do talk about Whales Market a lot, right? And sometimes I'm conscious that even in the snapshot, what I do, or what I try to do, I hope, when I'm writing the snapshot quickly every morning, is if I do report on something pre-trading at a particular price on Whales Market, I'll say like with low volume or like with X amount of volume. So I'm pretty sure I try to do that all the time. Maybe there might be times every now and again where I've forgotten to do that. That's the intention. What do you think, Keon, when it comes to reporting on Whales Market? Have we kind of come to the conclusion that it's basically pointless because there's always such low volume? What do you think the best way to go about it is?
Yeah, I mean, you have to critically evaluate your sources. I think it's a point of information. It's an indicator. That's all you take it with a pinch of salt. But I think you need to kick the tires on that alongside benchmarking against other potential similar assets. And I think, I mean, I get the point that if he's used a pre-market price, he's pulled it from somewhere. If he's got like a vested interest in the project, then obviously if you're looking at it from an outsider's perspective, you want to try and make sure it's an objective viewpoint. So you've got to benchmark it. You've got to look elsewhere. But I think that he's naturally going to take something that favors his own project, because especially if it's a third-party source, it said this, great. But I think you do need to take different sources and analyze it in that sense. And we've looked at the Whales Market analysis of recent token launches. And I think this is probably a little bit different, but you can benchmark it against, I don't know, protocols that are in existence, their market caps, so similar size ones, how big the float is for that particular token. So there's definitely sources of information that have observable inputs in the market that you can use. I mean, if I saw a founder posting about their project, I think that's great. Like, he believes in his project, but I wouldn't take it verbatim. So I think it does need to be taken with a pinch of salt. And I think you do need to do your own research as a potential buyer of that project or whatever to a third-party source that's a bit more independent.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think you've got to take everything with a pinch of salt. The question, I guess, is should you be putting the pinch of salt in it as the producer of the content, or everyone else has got to be putting the salt on it themselves? Either way, got to keep some salt for this type of content. Let's hit the Web3 roundup to get you up to speed with everything else that's been happening in the space. We've only got up to a bit more than 5 minutes left for the show. Then we're going to hit the DeGods headlines in just a little bit. So as always, it's come from the snapshot, which is pinned up top. We have Udi from Quantum Cats releasing a formal improvement proposal for OPCAT. He said today, after a long wait, the OPCAT proposal formally received a BIP number. It's going to enable covenants on Bitcoin, allowing for smart contracts, secure bridges, on-chain trading, ZK proof verification, and more. This is an important step towards making Bitcoin magical again. So Bitcoin taking a very different path, or the start of the new path for Bitcoin. Liquidium, NFT lending, ordinal lending protocol on Bitcoin, announced 1,000 Bitcoin in loan volume in the last 24 hours. That's pretty significant. Next, 2 SEC lawyers resigned for gross abuse of power in crypto case. As always, crypto Twitter absolutely loves that news that the SEC has done something wrong for something. Bored Apes revealed as partners to World Economic Forum to some timeline criticism. Also despised by NFT Crypto Twitter for any kind of relationship with traditional institutions. And some more news. Zirkit announces $2 billion restaked ETH. We've spoken about ETH restaking a lot on the platform. Zirkit is a new one. I actually threw some ETH in there the other day after I discovered it. Crypto Hayes, Arthur Hayes, said he can't wait for the token launch. That got me interested there. And finally, good friend of the show, contributor, NFT Stats, announced he'll release a fully refundable photography NFT on Blast. Hopefully those release details will come out pretty soon, with the intention of getting action on some Blast gold, which we are always trying to get. Look, we've only got a few minutes left for the show today. Legendary, we have said the final headline for the day is DeGods potentially moving to Solana again. What the price action, and the price responded very, very well. For the people who don't know, DeGods started on Solana, very, very popular NFT project done by Frank. DeGods started on Solana, became like the most popular NFT on Solana moved over to ETH. Well, DeGods moved over to ETH. The secondary collection, Utes, moved over to Polygon. The Utes then moved off Polygon onto ETH as well. Now, potentially going back to Solana after a few tweets suggesting that the market has responded very well with DeGods up 20% to 1.6 ETH and Utes up, I think, a similar percentage. What are your thoughts here, Legendary, who, as I believe, still a Ute holder? What do you think of the World Blockchain Tour that DeGods are on?
I love it. The World Blockchain Tour. Yes, I do still have my old PFP and still have my Ute. Kind of don't want to sell that, to be honest. I don't know. I find it quite amusing at this point. I feel like if you could trade that, you could trade all the bridging announcements from the DeGods and Utes collection and make money on those trades, because we've typically seen that pump so far. Actually, we have more track record on DeGods and Utes bridging around than on NFT cycles in general, because we've always seen a pump and then it dumped pretty quickly after that. At least from the latest comments that I've seen by Frank, he is a bit more like humorous when it comes to all the bridging around and his commentary on DeGods and Utes. But I do feel a bit sorry for both of the collections and more so the community. The community is still like amazing. Because it feels to me like, from a now more outside perspective, again, still a holder, but not really active in the community anymore, that they've been lacking a sense of direction for so much time.
Yes, I think that's a very fair take as well. Kind of traveling around, seeing what maybe the best fit for them. I don't know. Let's hear a couple of hot quick takes as we draw to a conclusion of this show. Bread's got his hand raised, but Stoop had it first. So let's go to Stoop and Bread. We're coming towards the end though, guys. So let's have some quick takes here. Fire them off. Stoop first.
Yeah, I'll be really fast, and I'll tie this in with ordinals too. I personally made the most money in my trading career on ordinals because I was emotionally unattached from my bag, and I was able to sell when it was right. And I think I'm noticing the trend that Frank, who's a Bitcoin guy, who's been around, had options, decided to go back to Sol for a reason, and that continues to prove my macro thesis that still Solana is a strong contender. And unfortunately, like, having watched the track record, this does feel like yet again just like another move across chain. I'm glad to see that they're making these moves, but at the same time, like, what are we actually doing here? Like, it can't just be a frat party, and you can't just keep bridging around chains.
Can't just be a frat party. Want to quote that, but interestingly, I saw a tweet yesterday which suggested that someone had suggested we need to go back to drinking out of shoes. Maybe that is the energy they're trying to capture. Thanks for that, Stoop. Just looking at the YouTube comments, that guy said this won't age well, shows no conviction in anything. It's like continuously walking to different towns and begging for change, i.e. liquidity. Jose says a sense of direction to do what? Fair. It's a good question. I guess people are searching for certainty, if not direction. What are people holders for? Brad, your hand is raised as well. Give us a quick hot take to close the show, my friend.
This one's on Udi and Opcat. One thing I want to give him and Eric a lot of credit for getting people on the social layer accustomed to some of the finer workings of Bitcoin. And now what this is going to be is governance. So, and I think this is going to be a rude awakening for a lot of people, because most people just don't have no idea how long this stuff takes. So they're like, oh, cool, Opcat's here, we'll just do that, and then things are in place, we win. But now they're gonna have to realize that there's just no changes that take place in any short time frame in a decentralized system, and you may get this stuff by the beginning of next year, and it's just gonna take a long fucking time for this stuff to take place. So again, this is just reiterating that this shit takes time, and I don't think people have any sense of how long stuff like this takes.
I think you've always been consistent on that, just like man hours, time invested, and let's see if the people are as committed to building this stuff out when patience is required as well. Great takes. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. That is the conclusion of the show. Just a quick shout out to the YouTube commenters who are on fire. We've got Pedito, Jose, that guy, Mouse, Tiro, Dutch Tide, Kashmir, Loads and loads of people in the YouTube comments going crazy. And guys, I think we've got more than 200 live with us on X today. Remember, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time, 12 p.m. GMT, live on X in the audio room that you're in. Or we're also live on video on X, and we're also live on YouTube if you didn't know. So please do press the subscribe button. Also follow the Modern Market Twitter account, where you can keep up to date with everything that we're doing. That is the show from us today. Thank you to my co-hosts, Legendary and Sammy. Thank you to our contributors, NFT Stats, Bread, Oxy, Funky, and Stoop and Kusho. And thank you to all of you in the audience who have joined us. Have a wonderful day. We will, of course, be back again with you tomorrow. Take care. Have a good day, and bye-bye.